Olay, there's a whole lot that is happening, and I don't want to necessarily direct the conversation completely. I want you guys to be free and talk about.
I'll tell y'all how I got here, and then that's how it started. That I messaged Ben.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, no, it was. Go ahead.
I spend my every day being an outraged, educated Black person, right? Just every day trying to learn more and being more upset. So over the holidays, I didn't even go home. So I'm reading them, reviewing discovery on my cases. So I get this case I'm reviewing. It's like a teenage kid accused of having a fight at school, like a school fight. I'm like, why is this in front of me? Why is this in criminal court? I look at it, I'm like, this is just a regular children having a fight. So then from there, doing my research, I review the high school. I look up the high school, and it's like a high school now highly populated by Black and people of color, right? Like Black and Latino people present day. But when I go in the archives and I start looking at the articles and everything that's pinned to the Wikipedia page about it, I'm finding that this is a school that's an all-white school in like 1915, right? This is a very, very white school. And by like the 1960s, they start introducing Black people in the school, and all hell breaks loose, right? All the articles in the New York Times are white students getting guns, confronting them, fighting them, scaring them off, doing things like this for tens and tens of years, right? This goes on for a while. And, every New York Times article at one point in time, a Black kid is even shot at the school by these white students, right? Literally shoot him. And, and the articles in the New York Times are like, oh, Negroes upset or Negroes confronted. You know what I mean? The articles are all framed around the response to the Black students being upset. And I start looking, right? And I'm like, so for tens and tens of years, this is an extremely white school. And once Black students are introduced even into the school, into the neighborhood, they're forced to deal with all kind of violence at the school. The school's been like this. This is what they're dealing with. And then by the time the school is highly Black, highly people of color, because, white flight, now all of a sudden you insert police into the schools, you insert all these devices. And now present day, here I am representing teenage children accused of crime at this school. But that wasn't even the characterization. You weren't criminalizing these students when it was white kids literally shooting Black students at this school. But now in 2021, I'm supposed to have to defend a teenager. And then that just brought me down the school to prison pipeline rabbit hole, right? There are tens and tens and tens of thousands of children arrested and incarcerated in America. As young as 6 years old, under 10 years old. Over
no, wait. You can't breathe. Ooh. In 6-year-olds incarcerated? Incarcerated.
Arresting children for school fights. And we need to understand is these things are intentional. All of this is set up very, very deliberately. It's our schools. That's where they put it. No one else has heard of a scenario. How many white movies do you watch? Teenage shows, all kinds of shows, movies, where children are running them up, right? They're running them up. They're doing foolishness. They're throwing underage parties. They're getting into fights. And it's cute, quirky, young material that you're watching. But why is it that the police have to be involved? Why are our kids getting arrested for things that would be detention, for disciplinary things, for regular interactions? Why are they arrested? Why can't you punish a child? I went to school, all right? And I have gone in the face of more than a few children in my day. I have wanted to fight people. No one has ever decided, hey, this person needs the police. You know what I mean? This person needs the juvenile center. Because what happens is, if you're arresting children, please think about this. The other day I tweeted that the school to prison pipeline is a real thing, that over 30,000 children were arrested or incarcerated between around 2018. And people started responding with their stories. They started talking about the children in their lives that have been arrested, the little boys they know, or when that's happened to them. That's insane, right? That's insane that's even a narrative, that's even experienced. Because what happens, right? Grown adults go with the psychological fallout of being criminalized, right? People are arrested. I can't tell you how many times I've been talking to somebody that's been arrested, and I have to explain to them, you're not a criminal. You don't have to feel differently about yourself. This hasn't changed who you are. This doesn't have to be this kind of impediment to your life. That's hard to psychologically reconcile as an adult who's lived an entire life where they weren't a criminal or they weren't criminalized, right? Imagine you're a child. Imagine you're a kid, and from the minute you're 6, you're 10, people are telling you, you need to go to jail, you're bad, there's no other way to deal with you. What happens then? What path does it determine? It's no coincidence that we have our children and our students being subjected to this. They are subjected to the police in schools. They're subjected to police brutality on the streets. And then we wonder why, the average Black man between 18 to 29 years old is arrested or incarcerated at some point. Why? They're being set up for this. They're being set up for failure. And it's very clear. And I just felt like, you know what? I have to start talking about these things because a lot of the things I think happen in the American system that continue to go is because they do a deliberate disservice to everybody by not telling them. That's why we don't see it in the schools. That's why it's not in the books. That's why they keep trying to ban all of the books. They try to ban all of the speakers because they don't want people to know. Because if people know, people will want to put a stop to it. People will be outraged, but they don't know. People do not realize, hey, these schools are filled with the police. And it's also no coincidence that New York City itself has the most segregated schools in the country. We have the most segregated schools in the country. And then all the Black schools, the schools where Black students and people of color, they have police in the schools. Why is that?
So, that's on purpose.
That was how I messaged Ben.
Girl, she just look that she just so that's how you message Ben. Look, because I was like, girl, because she got the thing is, Olay is like me. When we're very passionate about the topic, we're gonna be here for 5 hours. If you don't stop us, we're gonna try to stop ourselves. But we really ain't gonna finish the story because we got so much more left to go. So,
yes.
but that's how she met Ben. But it's you said something, Ben, and that alerted you as well. You've been on our show and you talked so much about teenagers who've been handcuffed and or in jail, or you talked about how Riker's situation is with just all different kinds of people in the worst conditions. We're talking about how policing in schools, like this is your focus, and I love that. But it's interesting enough when you talk about kids, like just kids as young as 5. I remember reading in the New York Times about a little girl, and I remember we covered it on here. This is vintage stories, but we covered it on here long ago. And there was like a 6-year-old girl. We were talking about policing and how policing is trash, and how 13 because. But we talked about how that 6-year-old was in the middle of a courtroom, swinging her little legs and being asked, do you know what you did? And her being so shy and playing with her fingers and just kind of looking down. I think what she did was throw rocks or something and hit a car, some white. And, they literally took this to jail, a baby. To jail. And I thought that is ridiculous to me. I read that story over and over, and I said, how is this not something that is on mainstream media, us being outraged at a 6-year-old or a 5 or a 6-year-old,
Because they don't let our kids be kids. Because our kids aren't kids to them. Our kids are not kids to them. And, whenever we have children, whenever something happens to our children, all of a sudden white America acts that they have a different lens that they look through things with. Like all of a sudden their eyes work differently, cameras work differently. Somehow they cannot see our children as children. Tamir Rice wasn't a child to them, right? Stanley Brown Jr. just the other day was not a child to them. Our children in court, Phantom Billy, who was killed the other day, was not a child to them. They don't see our children as children. For whatever reason, somehow our children transform to big, grown, scary adults because they never allow us to be kids, because they don't allow us to be human.
Wow.
They dehumanize us from the very jump. We're never individuals. And that's why it all becomes a story of how they were afraid, they were this. Why can't you see as a child? How come, let me ask you this, how come when they know it's a 17-year-old, right? And I'm not going to talk about him, but how come Rittenhouse is a kid? You're so sympathetic to him because he's a kid. Regardless, we're not going to talk right or wrong. They were able to see him as a child. He is 17. He's a teenager. But when you shoot our 11, 12-year-olds holding toy guns, when our children can't even ride a dirt bike down the street without you chasing them to their deaths, how come they're not kids? How come they're not kids? Why is that? Why is there no stage in Black life that comes with humanity? Why is there no point where we're sympathetic? We're not sympathetic when we're children. We're not sympathetic when we're mothers. We're not sympathetic when we're fathers. We're not sympathetic when we're dead. So when is it?
Nothing.
Damn.
So
Damn, Olay.
Right. So I want to add to that though, for your story, so we can complete it, so they know how you met Ben, because that's not only how you jumped into Ben's DM. Why?
That's how I met Ben. That's how no. That was how I was disturbing Ben over Christmas.
Say it like that, Ben.
I don't even know if Ben originally came at me. That's how I
haven't met Olay either.
Because I'm like, you started the story. I was like, okay, when I first met Ben, that's what it was giving.
No. That's when I first decided to harass Ben to the top of the new year.
Okay, there we go.
Listen, we don't need any mix. Listen, I'm too short for her anyway. Let's not have any confusion out here. I jump in her DMs for politics. She jumps into mine for Rikers, and we work. Okay.
There we go. Because I'm like, girl, where did you? Why? How? Who? Because I remember.
Listen, I be upset. I'd be very, very upset about the reality of what America. I'm telling you, I'd be upset. People be
at 3 a.m. she's upset.
Well, you and Ben together. You and Ben together.
Yes, I be in court. No,
you have been together.
People think it's a good day.
Yeah.
And I'm upset. I'm always upset because it's just, you know what it is for me? I think I have a problem living in an America where, we have, on one hand, we have Black people all over the TV, right? We have Megs, we have Beyonce, we have all these different ways. We have us here talking. So there's so many ways to like look past reality and think, okay, look at Black people. We're doing well. We're in these white spaces. We're doing stuff. Things could be so hunky-dory. Like, you could be watching Insecure and think, yeah, look at Black life.
That's right.
That's right. And also look at Black life. You know what I mean? Also look at Black life. That's a problem for me. The idea that 1 second a Black person could be in the middle of Insecure and the next second they're in Fruitvale Station, that's an issue for me. Because that's the reality of being Black in America. People can transform their narrative.
Okay, wait, Olay, I got to slow you down. 1 minute you could be in Insecure, and the next minute you could be in what?
Fruitvale Station.
God damn.
And it's true. And it's true. How many times you ever been in your car listening to a song you live in? You have the soundtrack of your life movie going, and now all of a sudden the police in your rear view and you're in a different movie. You have different fans. You have different considerations.
Just yesterday.
How many times?
Just yesterday.
Right. How many times you've been texting your Black male friend? He tell you he going somewhere. Now he driving. Now you're like, hey, let me know when you get home safe. Now you're waiting on that text, right? Now you're nervous.
That's right.
Just last night.
And yes, exactly. That part right there is the part I can't live with. It's not okay for me. I'm like, I go to court every day. It's easy to get disconnected from it. But for me, I'm like, when I go to court and I think to myself, like I'm sitting in court and I'm there and I'm the lawyer and in certain ways that I'm not being criminalized. But I'm looking around in the court. I'm looking around on the walk to the court, and every person that looks like me, everybody that's in the same financial lane of life, everybody that I am familiar with is heading to the court to be prosecuted. That's a problem for me. You know what I mean? The only Black people I see around are either the DA prosecuting people, the police arresting people, or the person in jail. That's not how it should be. And yet it is. And that's a problem for me. And it's just something I can't live with. I cannot live with. It's just not okay. And people turn a blind eye.
I want to ask you about one of the towns that I grew up. Well, I worked in. I was in Boynton Beach.
Grew up everywhere. 10 places.
I don't know. I've been
10
everywhere.
places, child.
Good adjacent.
But there was a young man who was a part of the the Boynton Beach Bulldogs, the football team, the Pee Wee football team there. And I think I heard you mention him. He was 13 years old. Tell us about that story.
Stanley Brown Jr. was a 13-year-old Black kid in Boynton Beach, Florida, a beloved, adorable little kid, member of the Boynton Beach Bulldogs, this traveling football and cheerleading team. He was riding his dirt bike. The police decide that they are going to stop and chase this 13-year-old. He's terrified. He has every reason to be terrified. He is a kid. He is Black. He is police. He has every reason to be afraid. He's riding his bike. They're chasing after him. He's so scared he crashes and he dies. And listen, this is my problem with when a Black person is killed, whether it be by police or just general white supremacists. When a Black person is wrongfully killed and injustice becomes this conversation about the individual way we prosecute whoever did this thing. My problem is this: in the time it takes you, in the once in a blue moon that they even bother to prosecute somebody, in the time it takes them to prosecute that person, you know how many other people police have killed? You know how many other Black people police have killed? Because we have to address a system in which they are allowed to do it. You know what I mean? I was having this conversation with my friend Masai actually yesterday, and we were talking about the Ahmaud Arbery verdict in relation actually to the Stanley Brown stuff. People will say, oh, it's justice. Is it? We had to fight them to bring the charges. 2 different prosecutors declined to prosecute that. That's what the video, they knew everything we know. We have to fight them even to get them to do it. And in the course of the time Ahmaud Arbery was killed in 2020, how many Black people have died since then off the top of the dome? Breonna Taylor, Rayshard Brooks, George Floyd, countless. Like it continues and continues to happen because we have this system in place. So we need to start addressing and delegitimizing the means in which they do this, right? Because here, why? And this is something Americans have gotten far too accustomed to. And I think I have the additional perspective of not being from here. But why are police stopping and arresting people for traffic violations, things that are not crimes? Why are they criminalizing you for things that are not crimes? Why did you need to stop a 13-year-old child on a bike? Why?
On a bike.
Why did you need to chase him? Why is his fare not registerable to you? Why is that not concerning? How come all these factors and considerations you take into consideration what you're dealing with white people do not seem to matter with us? You care about white people's sensibilities. You care about white people's fare. You care about white people's feelings. You care about how white people's families feel if something happens to them. Why does our humanity not matter as an individual, let alone our families, our communities, our fare? Is that not receivable? You are afraid in a job, allegedly, you are afraid of us in a job that you took, then where you are armed, where you are voluntarily choosing to enter the scenarios because nobody chooses to deal with the police. All right? The police come to you. The police start an interaction. You are afraid, but not the Black people that are regularly killed by you, not the Black people that have lived in this country and constantly been at the receiving end of violence. We don't get that. We don't get that humanity. We don't get that understanding. We're just supposed to be okay with it, right? We're just supposed to say, oh, something unfortunate happened and business continues, right? You're supposed to be able to kill this 13-year-old kid. You kill Stanley Brown just like you killed Tamir Rice, and it's supposed to be cool, right? We're just supposed to be fine with it. Business should go on as usual. And then when you prosecute one of the 360 different police that kill somebody, then it's justice. It's justice. Is it justice if tomorrow I got to bury someone else? If you lock up the police today that kills this person, but I got to bury somebody else that the police kill every other day after it, is it justice?
That's right. That's right. Devontae, what is so many names? Devontae Wright. Who was that was killed? Georgia covered
Dante Wright.
Dante Wright, not Devontae. Dante Wright killed during the George Floyd, during the Kim Porter trial. I mean, no, killed by Kim Porter during the Derek Chauvin trial. Let me correct myself on that.
You're thinking about Devontae that we interviewed because the guy that was shot 20 times, what was his last name? Crossing over jumped the fence, trying to get to his grandma's backyard. Or mama's. And what was his brother that we interviewed? That's what you're thinking about. So all of this we done spent the block by millions of times in our lifetime. And every Black person that sits here and does this or works in this realm in some kind of way, or even a regular black person who just has to worry about their child or their parents or ourselves being in a predominantly white area, or just going to school, or just walking to school, or just holding a toy gun. All of those things. This is our life daily. So, you being a prosecutor, us having to cover these stories daily, us also being the ones to live this story,